Excellent. So we are live. I forgot to ask you, Wojtek, where are you calling in from today?
Hey, Karen, real nice to meet you, and real pleasure to be on podcast with you. Yeah, I'm here
Likewise.
in sunny Brno, Czech Republic.
Nice. I keep hearing great things about Czech Republic. We've got a couple of clients in Czech Republic, believe it or not. They love it there, you know, and the tech scene is booming there. Just that area of sort of Europe, it seems to be really scenic and beautiful. Mild weather, so it's definitely on my list of places to visit.
Absolutely.
Wojtek,
let me know when you visit, yeah?
I will, definitely I will. Okay, so for those who have not been following, Kontent.ai is a now standalone company, previously part of Kontentai. The news was released a couple of weeks back, maybe 3 weeks back now, alongside $40 million worth of funding into Kontent.ai. Which basically left Kontentai to focus on themselves as a DXP, while Kontent.ai focuses on itself as a content platform, a headless CMS. Maybe that's a question for you, and what you prefer to be called. In fact, why don't we start there? What is Kontent.ai exactly?
Yeah, I mean that's a really great question to ask for the beginning, yeah. Because to be honest, and I will be very blunt and in full transparency, I sometimes feel that the whole market is really full of buzzwords, and everybody calls themselves Headless CMS, DXP, CMS, or Agile CMS Content Platform, whatever you call it, when the use case is good, right? And everyone is very pragmatic. So these days, I think you will find traditional CMS/DXPs sometimes calling them composable, sometimes calling them headless, and vice versa. Some of the leading headless CMS sometimes call them DXP, right? So just wanted to be very blunt on this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we really wanted to bring the positioning and messaging to the next level as part of the release. Yeah? So in a nutshell, we are still headless CMS. That's quite clear, I think. Yeah? The category is very defined, and we are not going or abandoning the headless CMS space. That's clear. But at the same time, we were thinking how to really capture our differentiation against others. And we, after doing a bit of research, talking to the market, customers, partners, analysts, we realized that we really want to elevate the position into something we call modular content platform. And if I explain it in one sentence, in a real nutshell, let's say I'm talking to my grandma. Well, that's a bad example.
It's not. It's good. Go for it.
She doesn't know, of course, what headless CMS is, but really we consider modular content platform as a structure that includes headless CMS as a core. So that support for headless CMS and for APIs and really all the things that typically developers love are part of the system. But on top of the headless CMS, there are also some other things that we introduced in the past, or we will be introducing in future, and those things typically are related or focused on either business users or large organizations that really need to solve their content operations at scale. Yeah? So to be a little bit more specific, what is on top of the Headless CMS foundation, typically in our case with Kontent.ai, you will find there really scalable options for custom workflows, for permissions. Yeah? So we really have deep dive permission models that are typically most useful in large global organizations that have hundreds of editors, that have hundreds of developers, and all these things. Or another good example that we will be introducing in the next months to come is the composable AI element. Yeah? So I'm sure we may touch base on that later in the podcast, but that's another pillar that we see that is on top of the headless CMS. Yeah? So in a nutshell, to come back to your initial question, yes, we are still headless CMS, of course, and you know how the buzzwords goes, but the modular content platform as such, in our case, captures all those things that are on top of headless. Does it make sense?
It makes total sense. So going back to the fact that you've just split from Kontentai, it was an amicable split. The word split makes it seem like it was an unamicable split. It was an amicable split. Why did you and everybody else involved feel it was necessary at this point to separate Kontentai from Kontent.ai? Because previously, obviously, you were under the same sort of banner, under the same company. But what pushed you guys over the edge to say, okay, going forward, we should be two separate companies?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the first thing to say very transparently is that it was not a revolution. Yeah? It was not like Big Bang that like this year we would realize, hey, we need to be separate company. Yeah? It was really evolution, and I think I'm a bit of person who witnessed the whole history because it really goes back to 2015 when we at Kentico back then established so-called internal startup team. Yeah, we were only a team of 5 people. I was one of the founding members, first responsible for everything customer-facing in a small startup, very dynamic times. Yeah? And back then, in 2015, we were not really thinking about separation, right? We were really thinking about the product market fit and bringing the product to the market, launching more features, acquiring customers, and all these things. Yeah? But as the time progressed and as the product was getting bigger and bigger, there were many exciting things, but at the same time, we were sometimes facing challenges when onboarding even internal people, because we realized we have 2 solid products, traditional CMS back then and Headless CMS, that were really partially operating on the same market, but at the same time with different audiences, different size of customers. But we had to solve somehow the sales enablement, the customer support, customer success, marketing, and all these things. Yeah? And sometimes having 2 products operating on plus minus similar market is a huge plus, because in our case, I can tell we learned so much from Kentico history. Like we technically knew what CMS users need, what are typical challenges they are solving, and all these things. We had a great access to product feedback loop, and all these things that really escalated the progress of back then Kentico content. But at the same time, as I mentioned, we always felt as the product and the company was growing that not in every case is a positive influence or impact. So it was a little bit of natural progress, and really a bit of first escalation came at the beginning of 2020. So yeah, 2.5 years ago, when we decided that we will really split the company into 2 separate divisions. Yeah? So that was the time when we had separated 2 management or executive teams, 2 development teams, 2 marketing teams, 2 sales teams, really solid internal separation into 2 standalone divisions. And that turned out to be really one of the best business decisions, and I will tell you why at that point. It was all about the focus of employees, because immediately we didn't have salespeople who really were distracted with 2 different focus products, and you may imagine like onboarding on the new features, learning about the ideal customer profile. Yeah, so I was just mentioning the first benefit of the separation into 2 divisions. And the benefit was really about the clear focus of particular people and particular departments. Yeah? So the salespeople immediately were focused on one target, both from business and product perspective. The marketing was focused on one messaging and one positioning and campaigns for specific product, and all these things that really come up with the separation of the divisions. And again, it was a very dynamic period, because that separation of the divisions came up just before the COVID struck the whole world, basically. So we, in a sense, didn't think back then about the separation of the companies as such, because back then we were still really benefiting from operational level of one company. So back then we still had one finance department, one HR department, and all these like supportive departments that provided services to both divisions.
Okay.
And then after those 2 years, now we are in the mid of 2022. During those 2 years, we realized that as content by Kentico back then was growing stronger and stronger every month, because we were really in the phase of hypergrowth. We realized that sometimes in future, we didn't know when, we may be strong enough to really cover also those operational things ourselves, and at the same time it would allow us tackle the market more aggressively, because if I'm very blunt, Kentico business is a little bit more settled. It's very well defined in mid-market CMS/DXP space, while Kontent.ai now is really here to innovate and tackle the market a little bit more aggressively. And our mission is really to try to think out of the box and support large organizations with new things. We don't want to do the things as they were always done. And that was a little bit challenging to navigate through two different product visions and two different company visions. So that was the time first, like, let's say more than a year ago already, when we start thinking, okay, maybe that's a good time, because back then the COVID was already a little bit controlled, and we could a little bit forecast to the future. So of course I can't disclose the whole fundraising details and planning, but let's say the process took us really longer time, at least on the executive level, and we were thinking about it for a longer time. So it was not like immediate action after 1 month. And when we realized that also the feedback for content brand as standalone brand is good from customers and partners, the whole process was really exciting but challenging at the same time, because you can imagine that, and that's I think also very unique to our space, that not only we were working on the fundraising to close the relationship with the investors, of course, but we were also preparing. So we were also preparing the new company, the new infrastructure, the new brand, the new website, and all these things. Right. So to really coordinate the whole year effort, from fundraising perspective, the new company perspective, the new brand perspective, into one single day 2 weeks ago. It was immense effort and challenge, but super exciting.
I can imagine. I do like the new website, by the way. I've been looking through it today. I do like it a lot, so congrats on that. Okay, so looking forward now, $40 million raised. In the press release, you mentioned you guys want to hire 90 plus people over the next 12 months. What kind of people, what kind of expertise? You mentioned there sort of being more aggressive, being like a bit more innovative. What kind of recruit are you looking for?
Great question. So simple answer in one sentence is that we are hiring across the board, from commercial units to engineering teams. But at the same time, we feel for a long time that we are quite strong in the technical teams. And we want to really expand our footprint in the different regions from commercial perspective. So the first priority, if I had to choose, is to make our sales and commercial teams stronger in different regions. So we are establishing a new office in New York, so hiring quite rapidly in States. In Europe, it's typically London and Amsterdam. But what's also good to mention is that we are rebuilding Kontent.ai company as remote first. So we don't really mind where people work. Right. But still we will have those hubs, such as Czech Republic for technical headquarters, and New York and London. When it comes to other roles, we definitely want to make our marketing team stronger. That's clear, to support those new commercial roles. We will be building the new business development team to really expand not only on inbound, which we worked on and which we built quite massively in the last years, but also experiment with outbound, to be honest. And then we are also making our customer success teams stronger, because of course with growing number of clients, we want to support them, because we really believe that making our customers successful will make us successful. That's quite clear. And then if I get back to engineering, we are definitely looking for engineers all the time, as every SaaS company, I think. But if I should choose a few areas from engineering perspective. We are looking for DevOps and security experts to make that areas stronger, because of course our focus is in enterprise. So we really dedicate a lot of time and efforts to make our security superb. And then also we will make our integration teams stronger, because as part of that composable AI story, we want really to enable more AI integrations in future. And last but not least, of course, considering that we are also rebuilding the new company as such, carving out from Kentico, we are also looking for some operational roles from administration to HR to finance. Yeah, that's also the case.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, I want to talk very, very briefly about some product features that stood out to me. So, can you tell me a little bit about Web Spotlight?
So Web Spotlight is, I would not even call it a feature. It's really like a product capability or add-on on top of Headless CMS. And in fact, that was the first. I would say Web Spotlight is, I think, the great example of the first innovation we brought to Headless CMS market. Because something like 2 years ago, we were already thinking how to make Headless CMS, I will call it human for marketers, yeah? Because back then, developers already knew what Headless CMS is. They could imagine what they can achieve with Headless CMS. But for marketers, like, I can tell you, back then I was put in charge of the marketing department at Kentico, and I realized, because I was coming from a product background, I realized how far they are even internally from Headless CMS perception and understanding. Yeah? So we were really thinking how to enable marketers to work more smoothly with Headless CMS. That was the first vision and goal and challenge. And we really realized that we first need to show marketers how they can work with Headless CMS in more visual way. So we introduced things like Visual Builder, content previews, live, yeah, and all these things that put together the story of Web Spotlight. So really, if I should summarize it in one sentence, by Web Spotlight you can imagine inline editing capabilities and the way how to preview content live from Headless CMS.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely something that I know it's been part of the product for a while, and we're definitely seeing it pop up more and more as like the next step for a lot of Headless CMS companies. Yeah. So yeah, it's an exciting time for that. Exciting time for marketers in this space who, you're right, they haven't had a smooth journey up until this point. So yeah, it's good for them. The other sort of feature, if you will, is the recommendation API, and obviously now we're sort of treading into sort of personalization, localization. What is a recommendation API, and why do you guys see it as a differentiator?
So maybe the first thing to say is that really that recommendation around our platform is just one of the many use cases we want to introduce with so-called composable AI. Because the change of the name from Content by Kentico to Kontent.ai, it's not only aligned with our website URL, but there's really a little bit more thinking and vision behind that. Yeah? We really want long term to bring the possibilities of AI to content management market, because we see an opportunity that nobody is doing that. And we know that as of now, nobody's even thinking how to utilize AI in content production, but it will come sooner or later. It will come, because people love to automate things and people love to make their work easier, right? But back to the recommendation API/engine. So in fact, we were experimenting with smart recommendations for quite some time now. And first iteration was that something like 2 or 3 years ago, it was even before Web Spotlight, we developed a recommendation API in-house as part of the product. Yeah? And really the use case was relatively simple. It allowed to crawl or browse through content items and recommend relevant content to people, for example, on the blog when they were reading some specific blog post and wanted to continue. Yeah? But it was not selected what blog post is next to read, but it was based on the smart recommendation, based on the algorithms, based on the taxonomies and all these things. Yeah? But after some time, when we were pivoting and experimenting and getting the feedback from the market, we realized that just maintaining it and developing it in-house is not the right way to go. So great lesson learned, especially in today's best of breed markets. Yeah? And we were like, hey, let's focus on what we do the best: content management at scale. And let's utilize some best of breed external services for this. And that's where we came to a partnership with a system called Recombi. We, in the end, we realized that we want to focus on things we do best. So really focusing on content management at scale. And we decided that we will really live and breathe best of breed services. And we partnered with a company called Recombi, and they are currently providing the recommendation API for this use case. Yeah? And that's exactly what we want to pursue in different other use cases, because our vision with composable AI is really to become an enabler in different content areas. And what I mean by that is that we want to split the content journey and content production process into different sections. You may call it create, manage, deliver, whatever you call those areas. And we believe that in each of these stages, there are things to automate and things that could be done smarter. So imagine that in the section of create, when users are writing and reviewing content and collaborating, they can utilize some artificial intelligence-based content creation. So really intelligent suggestions for finishing the sentences. Also, in the area of manage, there's a great opportunity for us to automate image tagging, to really automate categorization of your content, because in our case, we are talking about hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of content items, really global companies producing content at scale, as I mentioned. So yeah, it really goes down to simplifying the whole process and making it more pleasant for our customers.
So interesting. I mean, when I first saw the domain Kontent.ai, I was like, okay, how is AI going to be part of this? And it's very interesting to me that you guys have said, hey, we want AI to be part of this. AI is a big area we want to take advantage of, but we're not going to, but quite proudly, we're not the ones doing it. We're leaning into best of breed. We're going to be using AI companies or AI software that specialize in doing that to bring the very best AI functionality, which seems, to be, it's intelligent. I really like the fact that you guys have done that, rather than trying to be an AI company, basically. That's very, really cool. Okay, yeah, last question before. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Kat, to jump in.
No.
I mean, now we are finally getting a nice discussion without interruption.
I hope so.
Hopefully, but I mean, I'm not saying that we will not implement any AI ourselves. Yeah, let's see what our product vision how it will evolve. But right now, we really want to live by Mach and best of breed principles, right. And we believe that that's the way to go. But at the same time, as I mentioned, that innovation and that spark for new technologies is in our DNA. So it may be the case in future that in some cases we will automate ourselves. You may know that we are very strong in collaboration features for users, like suggestion modes and inline comments and all these things. So there's another opportunity for us to enhance it, maybe even with AI. But long story short, in midterm, definitely integration and enabling companies to use other AI services.
Okay. Nice little disclaimer there. That was probably a good move from you. Okay, final question before Riverside potentially cuts you off again. If you could change one thing about the headless CMS industry, what would it be?
Kaya, I had a feeling that you will ask me this because Bart, our managing director or right now CEO, told me that that you were asking him. I mean. To be honest, in my case, since I experienced the industry from the very beginning, I mean headless CMS industry, I would still, if I could change one thing with headless CMS industry, I would probably choose to change the perception of marketers, how they really feel about headless CMS, because I still see like a huge opportunity to improve this perception. And we have some data, just for information, how it's evolving, because we are collecting global survey on marketers' understanding of headless CMS market year over year. By the way, the next annual version will come out in September. But one thing is clear, that marketers still feel in general a little bit afraid, or even about those terms like APIs and all these things, while typically tech marketers are becoming more comfortable with it. But when we are talking to campaign managers, to creative people, they just want systems to work and they don't mind how, right? And I think that headless CMS providers in general, including Kontent.ai, can still do a better job on the education there, and I still think that there's some great space to improve. So really bridging that gap between marketers, developers, is great opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. I think you're absolutely correct. Okay, this has been great. I know I've learned a thing or two about the history of Kentico and now the future of Kontent.ai. So I really appreciate you taking the time, Wojtech.